Hi. So I guess mic wasn't working. Yeah. So good afternoon, everyone, online students. I hope your test experience must have been good, and I hope your preparation is on track. And I would like to welcome all the students who have gathered over here physically, and also the online students who are taking the time out to attend this particular day zero session of Prelims Camp for 2026. Now, before we go ahead and discuss the questions that has been asked in the test, what I would like to discuss with you first is the motivation. That what is the prime motivation that we are holding this day zero session? The motivation is very clear. We just wanted to give you a very clear simulation with respect to how your day or how your preparation would look like if you enroll or if you go ahead with the Prelims Camp 2026. Apart from it, right now we are almost on the verge of entering February, so almost 4 months are left for the prelim examination, and this is the best time that we should get hold onto ourselves, or we should hold ourselves onto account with respect to a good assessment. Now we give assessment or test for one thing, that is to find out our gaps, but it becomes a very humongous problems to find out our gaps and to categorize it and to work on those gaps as well. Now, the prior motivation for holding this zero session was that you should be able to get an idea that what happens in the camp and what benefits you might accrue if you are getting enrolled into it. Fine. So in your question paper, I hope, like I guess there are 10 questions of major subjects each, right? So my name is Ritayan Guha and I'll be discussing with you the questions of the polity. I guess 10 questions were there. And the same thing happens in the regular course of camp as well, that the entire subject is broken down into smaller tests, granular test, so that it will give you an opportunity to prepare for those tests in a very comprehensive, systematic manner and then assess yourself. It is always better to find your mistakes in the smaller portions, and that is why the tests have been curated and created, keeping the smaller portions of the syllabus in the mind. So for every test, you will have an opportunity to assess where do you stand. Also based on the sense of PYQs as well, and also based on whatever syllabus we are trying to cover. So every test will start in this fashion only, that a smaller syllabus portion would be covered. 50 questions would come from it. You have to come, give the test, and as soon as you will finish the test, after 5 or 10 minutes, the discussion will start. And the discussion will deal not only with the questions which have come in the test, but we'll try to see the broader realms that we can touch over here. Now, for today's zero session, one of the major positive is of the time. There are 5 subjects to be taken, so I need to do justice with the 10 questions which I have, right? So usually the lectures goes around for 2.5 hours to 3 hours in a regular camp test. And in those duration of the 3 hours, we tend to cover each and every facet, which is very important from the examination point of view, which can be asked in the examination. So our one important aspect of our pedagogy while we are teaching is that since the test belongs to a very smaller portion of the syllabus, we tend to show the students various kind of PYQs also, which has been asked from the same portion. Say, for example, if the test belongs to, say, preamble, salient features, we would like to show you the variety of PYQs which have been asked in the UPSC and till what depth they have asked it till now. And then from there, we can anticipate that, okay, if this is the level of questions which UPSC has asked as of now, what are the questions that we can expect from them in the future? This forms a very strong foundation for your own preparation. You have to reorient your preparation strategy in this line itself, that we need to think like how UPSC is thinking. We can develop that capacity only if we are well versed with the PYQs. We should be able to see the language of the PYQs. We should be able to see the themes, topics, subtopics, which are the favorites of the UPSC. And then we can actually reorient our preparation. Okay? So shall we begin with the 10 questions of polity? So the first question is that in India, which one of the following best reflects the principles of natural justice? Acha, before I discuss this thing, I just wanted to tell you one very important thing, that since in the CAM test we have very specific syllabus for every test, but this test comprises of spread across the entire polity. That is why I have not tried to show the PYQs over here, or else we tend to show, first of all we'll discuss the say important concepts, then we'll show the PYQs, then we'll jump to the questions. However, for the day 0 session, I'm just going forward with the question itself. So the first question reads as, in India, which one of the following best reflects the principles of natural justice? And then there are 4 options given associated with it. What we need to understand, if we are very serious about clearing this, the pre-examination, that everything boils down to your conceptual clarity. That if conceptual clarity is not there, you will not be able to clear the leave apart the opportunity to write a mains. Everything boils down to how good you are in dealing with the concepts. Polity in that sense is very, very static in that nature. Polity comprises of concepts. It is not like history that you will be compelled to remember facts, or you need to mug up important dates, years, names of rulers. It is not going to happen like that. Polity is a bit simpler than that. And polity is one of the most lowest hanging fruits of UPSC. Why? Because we need to master few concepts. So principle of natural justice is one of such concepts. What are the other concepts that I can talk of? Say, for example, what do we mean by doctrine of separation of power? What do we mean by the concept of state? How the concept of state is different from government. When we say that president is head of the state, prime minister is head of the government, ideally we should be understanding the difference between these two terms, right? What do we mean by nation? State तो बोल देते हैं, but nation का मतलब क्या होता है? What do we mean by nation, right? What do we mean by constitutionalism, right? What do we mean by law? From here comes the concept of rule of law, right? So these are the aspects that we need to prepare. These are handful of concepts that we should be very well versed with. If we understand the separation of power, we'll understand the term of constitutionalism as well. If we know what law is, we will know what rule of law is. And similarly, there are other few handful of concepts, like what do we mean by equality, what is substantive equality, what is formal equality. So when we'll deal with the test of, say, salient features of the constitution, there we'll try to discuss those aspects in brief, so that if you need to understand what UPSC can ask, there is a very beautiful question which the UPSC has asked in PYQs with respect to the definition of state. 4 humongous definitions of state they had given the option. So if you are not conceptually clear with the definition of state, we'll never be able to solve it. And it was a very easy question, straightforward. And this is the approach that we are going to follow. So again, principle of natural justice they have asked. So we need to understand the concept of principle of natural justice. That all I want to say is the primacy of conceptual development. If concepts are clear, everything will fall into place, or else we will be lingering here and there. So what do we mean by principle of natural justice? It is nothing but a philosophy which is trying to dictate that how the legal proceedings, when they have to go ahead, how it should be more fair, how it should be more reasonable, it should be more equitable, and lastly, how it can be more proportionate. So principle of natural justice is a philosophy which is trying to dictate that how legal proceedings should be done, how legal proceedings should be conducted so as to achieve these 4 attributes: fairness, equity, reasonable, and proportionate. There has to be proportion in justice. Justice is always related to balance. Justice is never associated with punishing one person or rewarding some other person. No. It is always associated with creating a parity, creating a balance, equity, equanimity in the society. So this gives us the premise of the theory of natural justice. But what we need to understand is that the judiciary is also trying to provide justice based on certain law, right? So there is a particular law, and based on this law, it has to provide justice. Clear? But to provide justice, Judiciary also has to follow a procedure. Why do we need to follow a procedure? Because procedure brings upon a great deal of objectivity, so that even when the judiciary is trying to provide justice, since there is a procedure, they will not be able to discriminate against other people. Every person would be treated equally in front of the procedure, following the same principle of equality before the law, right? And here comes the principle of theory of natural justice, which says that many a times what happens is that since the justice has to be provided by a procedure, the procedure gets so rigid that it jeopardizes the entire element of justice itself. That the procedure is so cumbersome, procedure is so difficult, and sometimes procedure is also not fair. And that is why getting justice becomes a much more difficult aspect. And that is where, if we want to go for the principle of natural justice, which stands for fair, reasonableness, proportionality, equity, we do not only have to look forward for the procedure which is given in Article 21. What does Article 21 says? Article 21 says that no person can be deprived of his life and liberty except under the procedure established by law. But what if the procedure is not even fair? And that is why we need to focus on not only on the procedure, but also on the law, the procedure, and the final justice. That although we are following the procedure, whatever is the procedure which has been prescribed, we are following it and we are providing the justice. Now you cannot claim that the justice is served. Why? Because the procedure can also be unfair. Procedure can also be imbalanced. Procedure can also be unproportionate, inequitable, unreasonable. And that is where the process of due process reasonability comes into the picture, which is also a part of Article 21. And that is why two options had been given in that case. That procedure established by law under Article 21 and due process of law. So in due process of law, we focus on the primacy is on not only following the procedure, but also to assess, analyze whether the procedure is fair or not, whether the law is fair or not, and whether the law and procedure applied together to get the justice is fair or not. It's a very overarching umbrella which deals with the justice part, right? This is clear? Concept samajh mein aaya? And wahan se concept se we could deal with it very easily, that the answer is C. Online students, I hope it is very clear. I hope you got the concept, right? Please yes bhi likhte chalna online students, so that I will also know that you are participating. I would also know that you are able to understand. Clear? Clear guys? कंसिडर देखो प्रीएम्बल से ना क्या क्या आ सकता है, पहले तो ये देखते हैं. दिस क्वेश्चन इज रिलेटेड टू प्रीएम्बल. ठीक है. नाउ व्हाट कैन बी आस्क्ड फ्रॉम द प्रीएम्बल? फर्स्ट पॉइंट, एंड व्हाट आई एम सेइंग इज दैट आई एम सेइंग इट आफ्टर एनालाइजिंग 25-30 years of PYQs which has come from the topic of preamble. Now what kind of questions can come? So we need to understand the parts which are there in the preamble. So preamble, first of all, it provides the nature of Indian state, what kind of state it wants India to establish. So it provides for SSSDR, Sovereign Socialist Secular Democratic Republic. It first of all, it provides for the nature of state. Let me just write it down. The preamble provides for the nature of Indian state, right? Secondly, it provides for certain objectives or certain values which it wants to achieve for the citizens of our country, right? What do we mean by it then? It starts from here. It wants to achieve justice for our people. And mind it, justice, liberty, equality, fraternity, dignity. It was not like that it was written out of nowhere. There is a proper logical sequence in which the objectives and values are arranged. First, the constitution of our country tries to provide justice to the people of our country. And justice in three realms: socio-economic, political. Again, a logical ladder is there. Random nahi hai कि justice है political, economic, social. No. There can be economic justice only when there is social justice first. Without achieving social justice first, You cannot go for the other two layers of justice, which is the economic and political justice. So what we need to understand over here is that every word in the preamble and its sequence is very, very logically arranged. We need to keep this aspect in mind. Many people, they try to mug up the wordings of the preamble. You don't need to mug up. First of all, we need to understand and we need to carry forward one major learning from question 1 itself, that we need to master concepts. The nature of state which preamble wants to establish in India, it has 5 terms: sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic, republic. At first place, we should be able to know the concept associated with these terms. We should be able to know what does these 5 terms mean. अगर हमें sovereignty का मतलब नहीं पता है, we are faltering somewhere. UPSC will be very easily, they will be able to trap us. We should be able to know what do we mean by republic. Similarly goes for the objective values which are associated with it. Again, that we discussed, na? What do we mean by liberty, or what do we mean by equality, what do we mean by fraternity, what do we mean by dignity of the individual. क्या dignity of the individual सिर्फ preamble में लिखा है कि कहीं और भी लिखा है constitution में? कहीं और लिखा है? This is how UPSC will play. Understand these aspects. This is how UPSC will play. That the term dignity is only present in preamble. There can be one statement like this, and then you will be keep gasping that okay, her dignity तो पढ़ा था, preamble में तो है, but ये तो कभी सोचा ही नहीं कि क्या ये FD में है, क्या ये DPSP में है, क्या है ना? And one important aspect is conceptual development, that we know what do we mean by concepts. And the next level that you need to master once the concept is ready is conceptual correlation. Just like what I did right now, that we should be able to correlate the concepts. We should be able to correlate preamble with FD, preamble with DPSP, preamble with the rights of the citizens of our country, right? And then you will develop mastery. Then you will develop that memory that you will be able to withhold information in your memory for a long time. ठीक है? Now, there is liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith and worship. तो हमें ना हर के बाद का पता रहना चाहिए कि justice, socio-economic, political, liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith and worship, equality of what? Status and opportunity, and to promote among them all fraternity, assuring dignity of the individuals and the unity, integrity of the nation. And there is only one date associated with it over here. Only one date is provided. Date क्या है ये? 26 November. If you'll see the lecture of the preamble that we take over here, there we show a PYQ cutting of previous years as well, where entire preamble has been put by the UPSC, and at the place of the date they have put XX, and then they have asked which date is this, 26 November, 26 January. So if we are done with these aspects, we will be good to go. Apart from it, preamble में और क्या होता है कि it has been amended only once by the 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act. 3 words had been added. यही तो पूछा है ये क्वेश्चन में, right? क्या डाला है? सोशलिस्ट डाला है, सेक्युलर डाला है, यूनिटी इंटीग्रिटी डाला है, right? And एक और एस्पेक्ट आता है preamble का, that whether it is a part of the constitution or not. Then there are 2 judgments associated with it. In the Berubari Union case, Supreme Court was of the opinion that although that the preamble is a big window to the minds of makers of the constitution, but it is not a part. But in the Keshavananda Bharati case, it said that preamble is a part. इसके बाहर कुछ नहीं है. If you'll solve PYQs, everything we just discussed in 10 minutes, भाई. Now only thing is that where you falter, I'm telling you, is that you guys lack approach. कि किसी पोर्शन से पढ़ना क्या है, हमें प्रायोरिटाइजेशन नहीं करना आता ना. And that is what we are trying to achieve with the help of camp. That for every subtopic also, although we are breaking down the syllabus into smaller portions, now वो smaller portion में भी theme है, उस theme का भी जो important है वो मैं तुम्हें बता दिया. Now this question becomes very easy. Term equality of status was expanded into equality of opportunity. No. 42nd Amendment में 3 ही word add हुआ है. Phrase of unity of the nation was amended to read as unity and integrity of the nation, which is absolutely correct. The words socialist and secular were inserted before the term democratic republic. This is clear? So 2 and 3 are correct. C is the correct answer. This is how we should go ahead with the approach in a way. ठीक है? Third question. Now, ये सबका सही हो गया कि नहीं हुआ? सही हो गया सबका? हाँ, सही हो गया. अब देखो यहाँ पे how the question has been framed, certain situations has been provided and its relationship, whether it is violating any fundamental right or not, it is provided. A very innovative question. Similarly, 10th question is also very innovative, right? Tendered vote wala question. That is also very innovative. Hana? So the point is that here, what do we mean by Article 19? कौन सा fundamental right बताता है ये हमें? Freedom of, पहले तो ये right to freedom है. Now there are 6 rights into it. Article 19, clause 1, subclause A deals with freedom of speech and expression. But there is Article 19, clause 2 is also there. Right? Now it provides for the right to freedom of speech and expression. Right? And Article 19 clause 2 deals with certain reasonable restrictions which the government can put in the exercise of right to freedom of speech and expression, right? But let us try to stick to what the question has asked. When we say banning of a book, writing of a book or publishing of a book, publishing of media articles is nothing but an expression or a manifestation of Article 19 clause 1 subclause A. It is nothing but a manifestation of our right to freedom of speech and expression. Now, whenever a book, whether it is being banned, now if it is banned under 19 clause 2, it might not lead to violation of fundamental rights. But here it is written banning of a book. So it might be a possibility that the book is banned without following the reasonable restrictions which has been imposed by the Constitution. So it is directly impinging on the Article 19. It is correct. Severely polluted environment. Now, in various judgments of environmental jurisprudence, which the Supreme Court of our country and various high courts of our country has provided, starting from MC Mehta case to Ranjit Singh case of 2024, it has provided that right to live in a safe environment is a fundamental right. Now, what the Supreme Court is doing in its rights jurisprudence is that after 1980s, during emergency, what had happened is that judiciary received a great blow for its status or the kind of trust it enjoyed in front of the people because of certain biased behavior of the judiciary during the emergency period. Judiciary at that point of time was said to be committed judiciary. Committed judiciary means that UPSC has asked a question on this aspect. Committed means that अच्छा लगता है सुन के कि wow, committed judiciary है. But here it is commitment to not the principles and values of the Constitution, but to the whims and fancies of the executive or the political authority. So committed judiciary is always a negative term. And just the antithesis or the corollary or the other aspect of committed judiciary is independent judiciary. And we want our judiciary to be independent. Now the point is judiciary has expanded the scope of the fundamental rights that we enjoy using the Article 21. Under Article 21 through various judgments, for example, Olga Tellis versus, there is a very prominent judgment called Olga Tellis. Olga Tellis versus BMC, Bombay Municipal Corporation of 1985. Under this particular act, this particular judgment, Supreme Court provided that under Article 21, it is the fundamental right of the people to, if they are a pavement dweller, it is their fundamental right that they can stay over there. Do you know what pavement dweller is? You must have seen certain people sleeping on the footpaths under the bridges. They are not doing it because they are finding it to be very adventure driven. No, they are doing it because of compulsions, because of absolute abject poverty, right? So similarly in MC Mehta case, if I have to bring it to the environmental case, it provided that under Article 21, it is the fundamental right of the people to have clean environment to live in. And if severely polluted environment is there, absolutely It is violating it. So this is also correct. Unequal wages for male and female. Is there any provision in the fundamental right associated with? Do we find any kind of provision in the constitution? Where? 39D. So of course, since such kind of fundamental right this can be solved by basic understanding of fundamental rights also. And defamation again is associated with right to reputation. Right to reputation also falls under article 21. Okay, so only 1 and 2 are correct. So B is the correct answer, only 2. I hope it is correct. Sure, Dubey, very good. Right, you have provided. 21 में. Now, यहाँ पे एक नया concept आता है federalism का. We understand. Now, this fourth question deals with the concept of asymmetric federalism. Again, we need to understand and we need to ask ourselves that whatever concepts we are dealing, do we know it in good stride or not? And again, we'll get fixed up in this aspect itself. So these options were very easy to understand it, because you can see we can make questions difficult in 2 areas. 2 ways questions can be made difficult. This is what you need to understand as well in the coming times, that either I can make question difficult with the concept I am trying to ask. First, 3 places I can make questions difficult. The selection of the topic, selection of the concept. Second, how did I frame the statements? This is the second place. And the third level of difficulty where the UPSC has started from 2024 is how I am framing the code. So either at 3 levels the difficulty can be improved. I can pick very peculiar topics. First. Second, I can create statements which are again very peculiar. And third, how I am designing the code. Why I am telling you this thing is that because it is very, very important. You might feel कि ये क्यों बता रहा है भाई? But it is very, very important. Why? Because in the UPSC examination, ultimately out of 100, maximum you will be knowing 30 questions that you are absolutely sure of. बाकी तो intelligent guess करना पड़ता है ना? And how do you do intelligent guessing? उसके लिए intelligence चाहिए. अब बोल दो कि मैं इंटेलिजेंट गेस करके आया, इंटेलिजेंट ही नहीं हो तुम, कहां से इंटेलिजेंट गेस करोगे? गेस करके आया, ठीक है. एंड हाउ डू वी नो दैट वी आर इंटेलिजेंट व्हेन वी आर एबल टू कैटेगराइज क्वेश्चंस इन दीज रिगार्ड्स एज वेल, दैट इफ यहां पे अगर ओनली 1, ओनली 2, ओनली 3 होता ना, इट इज द मोस्ट डिफिकल्ट फॉर्म ऑफ कोड व्हिच कुड हैव बीन देयर. सो नाउ यू कैन बी मोर सर्टेन दैट सच क्वेश्चंस आर मोर डिफिकल्ट टू गो फॉर गेसिंग as compared to these codes. These are easy to go for the guessing. At least you would know ना, एक तो आता होगा, ठीक है. So understand these aspects as well. Prelims, clearing prelim is not only knowledge. Everybody is reading same Lakshmikant here, but it's all about how do you develop that aptitude, and this aptitude is comprising of these kind of nuanced understanding of the questions, ठीक है. Now, what do we mean by federalism? Federalism is a political system which deals with that there will be 2 tiers or multi-tiers of the government, or multi-tiers of the government, and they will be bound together by the constitution. But what happens in asymmetric federalism is that if there are 1 union government and 3 state governments, there might be a possibility that the union government and the state government at the vertical level, they are not enjoying equality of powers. And it might also be a possibility that at the horizontal level also, they are not enjoying equality of power. What do I mean by horizontal level? That this state of triangle, it enjoys different kind of power. It enjoys more power as compared to the level of autonomy which the circle enjoys, as compared to the level of autonomy and freedom which the square enjoys. And that is why whenever we talk of federalism and when we say it is asymmetric, asymmetry happens in 2 levels. One at the vertical level, when there is very asymmetric distribution of power between the union and the constituent states. And then secondly, at the horizontal level, where different states are provided with their own mode of operation. that different states enjoy different degree of relationship with the union government. Same is there in our constitution as well. Article 370 was there. Article 371 A to K is there, right? These are the elements. Schedule 5, Schedule 6, these are the elements which are ingrained in our constitution, which provides for asymmetry in our federalism. And from here itself you can see, यहाँ पे पूछा था which are not there, not a feature. So when it is saying that 7th schedule of the constitution, 7th schedule is a very core federal feature. It is trying to divide the powers among the different tiers of the constitution. So यहीं से पूरा क्लियर हो जाता है, 4 एक ही में है. अगर तुम्हें कुछ भी नहीं आता था, सिर्फ इतना भी आ जाता था तो हो गया था. And that is why I said that you need to know that how the codes are being framed. Create a good structure in your head that whenever you see a question, आपका दिमाग यही 3 वे में जा रहा है जो मैंने बताया कि टॉपिक का सिलेक्शन कैसा है, स्टेटमेंट इजी है कि डिफिकल्ट है, एंड कोड कैसा है. समझ रहे हो? एंड बाकी 3 तो है ही. All India services, because it provides asymmetry between union and the states. All India services are recruited, trained by the center. They work in the states, but their entire authority lies with the union government only. And they are accountable to the union government only in the long run. Flexibility in constitutional amendment. Of course, asymmetry. And integrated nature of the judiciary. There is no federal judiciary over here. There is only integrated judiciary. That all the courts in our country forms a part of a hierarchy, and all the courts of our country are able to review, assess and adjudicate both the central and the state laws. So एक ही बचता था 7th schedule, and इसलिए मैंने ये भी पूछा. हाँ,
7th schedule does not create symmetry that in union list there are 100 subjects and in state list.
That is fine, but ये भी तो हो सकता है ना. एक तो ये हो गया, ये तो एक quantitative approach हो गया. ये भी तो हो सकता है कि how does those subjects have substantive impact in the life of the people. For example, land किस state में आता है, किस list में आता है? Agriculture, water, है ना, irrigation. So the point is, these are the facets why subjects were distributed among these 3 lists, was to provide a greater degree of administrative homogeneity, so that while we are going for the operationalization of those subjects, it becomes easy. There are certain things which is better if it is centralized, and there are much more other subjects which is better if it is decentralized, so that different states will have their own idea of creating laws on those subjects. So just numerical strength doesn't determine asymmetry. समझ रहे हो? चलो नेक्स्ट में आओ. Consider the following. President of India with respect to, अच्छा ये तो बहुत सिंपल था. Primus inter pares का होता है first among the equal. पहला क्वेश्चन ही देखो, President of India with respect to state governance. कैसे हो सकता है Primus inter pares when the president is the person who is appointing it? This is one basic knowledge which you could have applied. That equality का relationship तो तब आएगा ना. Primus inter pares तब आता है when there is a group of people. Among the group of people there is one person who is having the same level of, say, privilege and the rights that they enjoy, but they have some degree of authority or leadership, or some degree of administrative autonomy and control. For example, Chief Justice of India. Right now, कितने judges हैं Supreme Court में? 34, along with CJI. So, since Supreme Court of India comprises of 34 judges, 33 judges plus 1 Chief Justice of India, all the judges, Chief Justice of India is Primus inter pares. He is the first among the other judges. All the judges, including the Chief Justice, get the same salary, get the same allowances, get the same pension, right? But the only thing or the difference which comes up over here is that one person, the first among the equal, they enjoy some degree of leadership or some degree of authority over the administration of the group. Same happens in the case of Chief Election Commissioner as well, right? Same happens in the case of Cabinet Secretary as well. Cabinet Secretary कौन होता है? Who is Cabinet Secretary? हाँ, but किस body का administrative head होता है वो? Parliament का नहीं होता. Cabinet Secretariat का head होता है वो. He is the head of the Cabinet Secretariat. Cabinet पता है आप लोगों को? हाँ? Within the Council of Ministers, there is a small group of high-ranking ministers. They form the cabinet, and it is the cabinet only which forms the highest decision-making body in our country. It is the cabinet only which cooks the policies and puts it in front of the Council of Ministers, right? And cabinet is a constitutional body because it had been added in the constitution by which amendment? 47th, 42nd. हाँ एग्जैक्टली 44th में है. 42nd तो आपको पता ही नहीं रहना चाहिए कि क्यों 44th में 42nd में नहीं हो सकता था. So cabinet, since cabinet forms one of the most important decision making of our body, it deals with coordination of various ministries. It requires an administrative body to help them perform their duties. It needs some secretarial assistance, and that is why cabinet secretariat was created. Cabinet secretariat was created, and cabinet secretariat is headed by cabinet secretary. Cabinet secretary is headed by cabinet secretary, who is the say head of the Indian administrative services as well. So all other secretaries which are there in the ministries, they are also IAS, but this person enjoys more. They are getting same salary, same allowance, same bungalow, type 6 Lutyens में. But difference क्या आ जाता है? Position का, authority का. और यही पूछा था यहाँ पे. क्या बच जाता है? Prime Minister along with union ministers. वही है. That of course Prime Minister, they get the same salary, but they have different degree of leadership that they enjoy. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 are correct. C is the correct answer. Provisions of 10th schedule with respect to voting against instruction of the party do not apply to Rajya Sabha. This is correct. Constitution of India provides that voting in elections to Rajya Sabha shall be through an open ballot. अब देखो अगर तुम्हें हवा भी नहीं है ना इस टॉपिक की, समझो, this is what I call aptitude. First of all, aptitude goes to the level of how the questions are being designed with respect to the structural elements of the question. Second is, see, Constitution does not deal with such finer details with respect to the procedure of the election. This is operational procedural aspect of the election यार. तो यहीं से कट गया वो. Constitution deals with the principle. वो बोल देगा हाँ PRSTV से करना है, proportional representation by single transferable vote. But it will not go into the procedural aspects, operational aspects of the election. तो ये क्वेश्चन यहीं से आपको जज करना था कि ये सही से हो रहा भी है कि नहीं हो रहा है. इस तरीके से खेलना है यार. कितना रटोगे? समझो अगर just quickly I'm just giving you one insight. Suppose almost 10 subjects that are there in the prelim examination that we have to study. Within the 10 subjects, agar suppose if you get to that status of level of prep, that you are able to do revision of one subject in one day, you get to that level. ठीक है? It gets after a great degree of grind. When you push yourself hard, you get to that level. So imagine exam is on 24th, 10 subjects are there. So polity is the first subject that you are revising. In that case, it is the 14th of May that you will be studying polity for the last time, and you have to remember it for the next coming 10 days, right? Can you imagine this situation? How is it humanly possible? Yeah, it will be possible only if we develop not only knowledge but aptitude with respect to the language of the question, with respect to how you view the questions. समझ में आ रहा है? Which of the following situations of the council the council minister have to resign? देखो, सबसे पहली बात है, we need to understand the core concept associated with it. We follow the parliamentary form of government. Parliamentary form of government, जिसका one of the prime feature क्या होता है? That the council of minister is collectively responsible to whom? To the legislature in general and to Lok Sabha in specific or in particular. ठीक है? Because मैं parliamentary form of government की बात कर रहा हूँ. Parliamentary form of government in India की बात नहीं कर रहा. I'm talking of the parliamentary form of government. Now, parliamentary form of government in India, COM will be collectively responsible to the Lok Sabha. What does it mean? Is that the Lok Sabha, if it is not happy, they can remove the council of minister. Right now, in the 18th Lok Sabha, Modi ji has formed the government following the alliance with TDP and JDU. If the JDU and TDP are not happy with the functioning of the Modi government, they will not support Modi government if a no confidence motion is instituted in the parliament. Modi government will fall, and the legislature will provide that opportunity for some other political leader of the political party to form the government. That is that is how parliamentary form of government works. But there are different, these four options which are given there. These are certain instruments at the hand of the parliamentarians to discuss certain matters. The first is associated with failure of passing of the motion of thanks. Motion of thanks is a motion which is used by the parliamentarians to discuss the speech which has been given by the president on two instances. What are those two instances? Online student लिख दो फटाफट कौन से वो दो instances हैं where the president give the speeches in front of both the houses sitting together. बजट में कब से होने लग गया ये? हाँ, first session after the general election, first session of every year. Incidentally, it happens that budget happens in the first session, but budget will be a wrong thing to say. ठीक है, ये conceptual mistake है, समझ रहे हो? Now, under these two things, governors are also obliged by the constitution to address the houses, right? अभी आपने न्यूज़ अगर पढ़ा होगा लास्ट 2 दिन के, तो गवर्नर का अलग ही चल रहा है, ठीक है, बिना पढ़े ही निकल गए कर्नाटका में. केरला का तो और था, जो उसको स्पीच प्रिपेयर करके दिए तो उसको खुद ही एडिट करके पढ़ दिया उसने, ठीक है. तमिलनाडु में एक लाइन पढ़ के निकल गया. तो सब एक से एक धुरंधर है यहाँ पे, सब रणबीर सिंह के सब इधर उधर भाई भाई है, धुरंधर है. So the point is that we need to understand that what are the constitutional obligations look like, and how does the governors are performing their constitutional duties or not. However, with respect to the parliament, motion of thanks is used by the parliamentarians to discuss the speech which has been given by the president. Now the speech of the president is prepared by the COM only, the cabinet only, and usually it deals with the policies and programs of the government which the government is trying to bring in for the coming year, right? So usually what happens is that there is a great debate on, say, motion of thanks. So if motion of thanks fails, it means that whatever the policies the government is trying to bring in, it is failing. So definitely the Lok Sabha is absolutely trying to hold the Lok Sabha is trying to hold the Council of Ministers to be accountable. So it is going to resign. Now, with respect to the privilege and the censor motion, what we need to understand is, privilege motion is brought by the parliamentarians to discuss the conduct of a minister or a parliamentarian associated with if they have provided some wrong information. जैसे फॉर एग्जांपल पार्लियामेंट में एयर पोल्यूशन के बारे में बात की है अभी ये विंटर सेशन में. Many MPs asked that we have failed with respect to the WHO standards, we have failed with respect to the national air quality standards. So वहां पे एकदम सीधे बोल दिया हमारे मिनिस्टर ऑफ एनवायरनमेंट फॉरेस्ट क्लाइमेट चेंज ने कि no, our AQI was below 300 most of the times in Delhi, which was an abject absolute lie. So how can a minister lie in front of the entire house? And what is the recourse to the parliamentarians in that case? In that case, they have the power to bring in privilege motion to point out that you have lied, you have with malified intention, you have provided wrong information. Similarly, if you are not happy with the functioning of a particular minister, suppose Nitin Gadkari being a very efficient minister with respect to the highway constructions and all, but he was hell-bent with respect to the level of ethanol blending which should go ahead in our country. Now, there were various aspects and discussions were going on the impact of ethanol blending on the engines of the car, right? So in that case, if you are not happy with it, so you could have brought in the censor motion that Nitin Gadkari and his sons are also owner of a company which provides for a great degree of ethanol. So there can be a quid pro quo arrangement between the government and the private party. So you're not happy with it. So, but these two things does not lead to the dissolution of the or failure of the Council of Ministers. But cut motions, it is a motion which is introduced by the parliament to limit the demand for grants, the budgetary allocation which the government is providing for a ministry. And every government is run by finance only. Now we need money, right? So if the legislature is not giving the executive the money to function, how it will function? So better it will resign itself. So 1 and 4 are the correct answer. A is the correct answer. if a bill other than a money bill originates in the Lok Sabha and is passed by it, Rajya Sabha is informed about it through a message along with a copy of the bill as passed. This copy also carries an endorsement signature. So basically, this question is trying to check your understanding of the procedural aspects of passage of a bill from one house to another. Now we know that a bill can become a law only if it is duly enacted by both the houses of the parliament and when it receives the assent of the president. But imagine a situation where a bill is getting passed by Lok Sabha, it is going into the Lok Sabha. There are certain procedural aspects associated with it. ऐसा नहीं है कि लोक सभा ने पास किया, वहां पे राज्यसभा का व्हाट्सएप ग्रुप है, वहां डाल दिया बिल कि हमने पास कर दिया, आप देख लो. ऐसा नहीं होता. It's a governmental system. Things are based on rule of law. Things are based on procedures. And why procedures are there, we have seen in the first question, to bring in more objectivity, to bring in more transparency, so that nobody can take the entire cause to as an opportunity to create a deception for the other people. So that is why what happens is that as soon as a bill is passed, it is passed by the Secretary General. Secretary General of that particular house authenticates it, gives it to the Secretary General of another house, and the Secretary General of other house will give it to the presiding officer of that house. That is the chain of communication which is being followed in transmission of bills from one house to another. So this in that case क्या है? D is the correct answer. यहाँ पे अगर सपोज नहीं भी आता था, तुम्हें कुछ भी नहीं आता था, तो देखो प्रेसिडेंट तो तुम काट ही सकते हो, एंड बिल की पैसेज में मिनिस्टर ऑफ पार्लियामेंट्री अफेयर्स का क्या लेने देना. सो एटलीस्ट दीज टू ऑप्शंस कुड हैव बीन एलिमिनेटेड, राइट. एंड तब वहां पे फंसता आप. हाँ ठीक है, आप मार देते स्पीकर अगर नहीं पता है तो, बट एटलीस्ट यू आर एबल टू अप्लाई योर माइंड ना. You got into that position where you are able to eliminate two options. And when I say intelligent guessing, this is intelligent guessing. Intelligent guessing ये नहीं होता कि चारों ऑप्शन में हवा नहीं है, मार दिए कुछ भी. Intelligent guessing is when you have at least eliminated two options, or at least one or two options you have eliminated. Now out of those two things, you are applying your mind further. You are picking up one of the option. ठीक है. Which of the following powers of the Supreme Court are also conferred on the high courts of our country? What we need to understand is that president and vice president का जो election होता है, इस Article 71 of the Constitution provides that it is the prerogative only of the Supreme Court to delve into any kind of issues with respect to dispute or confusion in the election of president or vice president. Article 71 provide करता है ये, ठीक है. But there is one important judgment by the name of N.B. Khare versus Election Commission of India 1958. What does it say? किसी ने सुना इस बारे में? ठीक है. What does this particular judgment says? Supreme Court judgment. It says that any doubt, any dispute with respect to the elections of president and vice president can be taken to the Supreme Court only by the electors or the candidates. No ordinary person like me and you who are not a part of the elector. ठीक है. अभी I cannot go into that depth, इतना protracted discussion कि electoral college क्या है क्या नहीं है. But only the elector and the candidate who are participating in the election of president or vice president, only they will be able to file a suit in front of the Supreme Court. No other person. ठीक है. So इसका ये समझ लो, हटा लो उसको 3 को. So 1 to 4 is the correct answer. Last question. Interesting question. It's a very interesting question. Right now, the issue of SIR is also going on. क्यों online students? ठीक है. हाँ, online students थोड़ा लिखते चलो अपने comment box में, so that थोड़ा effective participation भी तो हो, है ना? ठीक है. So the last question is very interesting, and my last question with you guys as well. So the point is, a very interesting scenario has been given over there, that you have come to vote, but you have been informed by the presiding officer of that booth that आपके नाम से तो किसी और ही ने कर दिया है vote. Now what will happen? What recourse do you have? When you are a legitimate person, whatever has happened on your name, that is not your fault. It is a fault of the entire electoral or the political system of our country, that such kind of deceit, fraud exists in our electoral systems. So what happens is that in that case, the presiding officer of that booth, they will inquire the and ascertain the identity of the person which you are claiming to be. ऐसा भी तो हो सकता है कि किसी लेजेंड ने किया हुआ था, आप आके बोले नहीं मैं हूं, उसके नाम से आप भी करके चले गए, ये भी हो सकता था. But here what it will happen in this case is that the presiding officer of that booth will try to question you. They will try to ascertain your identity, and if they will find that all the aspects of your identity is matched, then it will give you a ballot paper. Nowadays voting happens in EVM machines. They will give you a ballot paper to cast your vote, right? And that process is called as the tendered vote. Tendered vote, right? And दूसरे भी डिस्कस कर लेते हैं. फॉर एग्जांपल असिस्टेड वोट क्या होता है? From the name itself, it is quite clear that there might be certain category of persons who are physically disabled, who are having various kind of physical disabilities, not able to go to the polling booth. In that case, the Election Commission of India provides assistance. किसी का हाथ नहीं है, कैसे बटन दबाएगा, है ना? So Election Commission of India also provides certain degree of assistance to them, so that to help them to vote. Ultimately, all these kinds of vote are dealt under the Conduct of Election Rules of 1961, and all these kind of different categories of voters have been established for only one purpose, which is to make more and more participative our elections. Elections should comprise of more and more participation. Now, if we are leaving certain categories of people behind in the process of election, then what is the meaning of democracy then? Democracy means that it is a conglomeration of more and more people. More and more people should be able to participate. It should provide a very inclusive environment for people to participate. Similarly, proxy vote क्या होता है? That, as the name suggests, that a certain other person is voting on the behalf of a person. It is provided for people who are called as the service voters. इसके ऊपर तो पूरा लंबा चर्चा किया जा सकता है, बट इट इज प्रोवाइडेड फॉर सर्विस वोटर्स. सर्विस वोटर्स कौन होते हैं? सर्विस वोटर्स आर दोज पर्सन्स हु आर एम्प्लॉयड इन द आर्म्ड फोर्सेस ऑफ आवर कंट्री, हु आर इन द स्टेट आर्म्ड पुलिस एज वेल, or a person employed by government of India who is positioned outside India. Now these service voters have two options. Either they can vote through postal ballot, or they also have the option to vote through with the help of a proxy. ठीक है? And when they are trying to vote as a proxy, they will nominate that this person will come to the polling booth and will vote on my behalf. This is what we mean by it. ठीक है? So this was all with respect to the 10 questions. I hope you will love the other sections as well. I hope I was able to help you with respect to not only the concepts, but with respect to what kind of temperament that we should develop, we should inculcate. 4 months we have, enough time we have. And knowledge पे ही काम नहीं करना है, temperament पे भी काम करना है, memory पे काम करना है. ठीक है? So I hope now the next SME would come and would start the discussion, whatever might be the next subject. Online students, I hope you enjoyed this session, and the next SMEs will come. You have 40 more questions to go, so a good time that you have to sit now. And again, I'm going to repeat the same thing. Knowledge only is not going to help you clear this exam. We need to focus more and more on developing of the right temperament, mindset, and techniques. And last thing, guys, the risk-taking ability of yours. It is only the risk-taking ability in a very simulated environment. जो भी हम टेस्ट सीरीज में जो हम कर लेते हैं ना, मार देते हैं कि चलो ये अटेम्प्ट कर लेते हैं, बिकॉज वी हैव नथिंग टू लूज. क्या फर्क पड़ रहा है, 2 नंबर कट ही जाएगा. बट एग्जाम में जो अगर सपोज आपका 100 यूनिट्स ऑफ रिस्क टेकिंग एबिलिटी है, जिस दिन व्हेन यू विल राइट ऑन एग्जाम ऑन 24th May, it you will start your risk taking ability from 50. It will directly go into half. And this is what we need to understand, that we need to give our test keeping in mind the same feeling of that we will have on 24th May, that today while we are giving the test, we need to attempt it keeping in mind the same fact that we have things to lose. Why we are not able to take risk on 24th May? Because repercussions are associated with it. ठीक है? चलो guys, thank you. All the best for the coming discussions as well.
Okay, guys. Good afternoon, all. My online friends. Good afternoon to all of you. All well? How was the test, everyone? Huh? Are? Show more energy. All good? So, I will be taking the economics topics, correct? So, let us move on to economics right now. So, first of all, how were the questions in economics? They were easy? Easy? Sure? My online friends, can you all hear me properly? Everything is good? Give me a thumbs up, everyone. Yes. Yes, guys, everything is proper? Chalo. Okay, so when we talk about economics, okay, we had questions related to foreign trade, depreciation, right? A little bit of inflation, correct? So most of the topics that we found were highly conceptual in nature, and that is exactly what the subject economics is all about, right? So firstly, I would not take much of your time. I would just talk about some very basics regarding economics. So first of all, congratulations to all of you for giving the test, right? The CAM test is actually very rigorous. All of you know, every day you have to come, almost every day, every 1.5 days, 2 days, you have to come, you have to give proper tests, 50 questions, following by the discussion, right? So that is what will be cultivating the most crucial aspect for your prelims examination, that is discipline, right? Because as of now, we have only 120 days for our prelims examination. That is only 4 months, right? That will go by in a blink of an eye, right? 4 months is nothing. But at the other hand, when you look 120 days, it is more than enough. Okay? What I am trying to say is that, if you fully utilize, if you fully give yourself to these 120 days of your life, okay, your life can change. Firstly, you have to cultivate the mentality in you, because prelims examination is all about how you reform your mindset. Okay, for example, every camp test will be consisting of 5 6 chapters or 2 3 chapters, right? What do you have to do? You have to firstly revise your notes, correct? If I talk about economics right now, what are the common sources all of you are using? Even my online friends can tell me, what are the common sources that all of you people are using for economics? Tell me. Class notes. Class notes is one of them. Any other books? NCRT. Very good. Achha, anyone read the latest NCRTs which have been updated recently? Anyone? No? You have idea that NCRT, the new NCRTs also have been updated? Yes? Raise your hands. Batao. You know, in class 6 and class 7, possibly in class 8 also, NCRTs have been recently been updated, right? I'm talking about economics and other subjects also, correct? And most of the new infrastructure projects, most of the new payment modes, digital payment modes, CBDCs, they are also included in class 6, class 7, class 8 levels, right? So just like you all, right, our school children are also getting smarter, correct? And the new NCRTs are also having all these kind of things, all these new updates, correct? So that is what we have to keep in mind. Class notes, new NCRTs, anything else? The most important thing that you people are missing? Current affairs, obviously. Another one, economic survey. Another one, the most important thing, guys, tell me. Government schemes is a part of a current affairs only, right? PYQs, guys, PYQs, right? The most important thing you people are missing. And this is common for all the subjects, right? Now, when I'm talking about the PYQs, I'm talking about from 1995, from 1990s, however much old current affairs that you can find, please do read the PYQs. Even for example, if you can look into the financial markets PYQs from 1990s, if you can find, UPSC used to give you stock market graphs, right, of multiple companies, fictitious companies, and UPSC used to ask you that, okay, what is the performance of the company, what is the performance of the overall economy, right? Maybe they can bring back those things back again right now. Because if you find the 2025 questions, okay, on fiscal deficit, did you see anything new? What were the new trends? Formula-based numericals, right? UPC right now is asking all these kind of numbers and all these kind of things just to test you, correct? Test your concepts. That is the most important thing. Clear, guys? So I believe, concepts, current affairs, and common sense are the most important things that you can, rely upon when you talk about economics, correct? All right. Now, when I'm talking about these sources and strategy, firstly, I want to talk about the strategy that you should follow in your camp. All of you should be revising everything that we have discussed, the sources, correct? Second, do practice some questions and come to the camp examination, because you will be making, for example, today, you made, I hope, some silly mistakes, correct? Sometimes you did not read the questions properly. Sometimes you could not recollect, right, some foreign exchange term or some inflation or imported inflation, those kind of things. Why not test them before coming to the camp, correct? So I would suggest you, when you have 1.5 days for camp, spend around 2-3 hours, 2-3 hours, 4 hours in revising your notes, PYQs, current affairs, everything, right? The second half of your study should be dedicated to solving as many questions from those topics as you can, okay? And for that, you have so many random applications, correct? You have so many random applications on Play Store and App Store. You have MCQ apps, right? As many MCQs as you can. Please do solve it. Because 120 days, everyone will be doing the same thing. Revision, PYQs and all those things. But the people, the students, who will be practicing more MCQs, they will be having the upper edge. Because they will be making less mistakes in the examination. Am I clear? So whenever you come to the camp, practice as many questions as you can and come. Clear? So just decrease your margin of error. That is what I'm talking about. And especially subjects like economics, right? You have a lot of concepts there. Correct? That is why you need to test your concepts. Okay? Shall we start with the first question of economics? Question number 21. So this is related to your nominal GDP and real GDP, right? Now, for example, may I know your name? Abhay. Abhay. Imagine that you are working in an office. Suddenly your boss comes and tells you that I give you 10% raise, 10% increment. What you will do? You will dance, you will enjoy, you will throw a party. To me also. So what you will do? You will throw a party, but you also see in the newspaper that inflation is 10%. So what is the real effect? Zero, no party. So this is exactly what nominal and real is all about. Okay, imagine that India only produces samosas. Okay, so in 2024 maybe we produce 10 samosas, 10 rupees worth, right? The next year the samosas price increased to 10 rupees due to inflation. Right now it is at 20 rupees. But if we are producing the same quantity, that is 10 samosas we produced in 2024, 2025 also produced 10. So do we see any change in output? That is a total number of production. No, correct? So this is what we have to concern ourselves with, right? An economy, for example, GDP becomes more due to two things, right? All of you know that. First is output, the number of things we produce, okay? The number, the quantity. Second is what is the money value of it, correct? So this is exactly where inflation comes in. For example, in the first year, 10 into 10 is 100 rupees, okay? The second year, 10 into 10 is 200 rupees. So government of India will tell, see, our GDP has increased. Happy news for everyone, good news, right? Country is growing, but in real terms, country is not growing because the output is limited. Really, in real terms, if I talk about by not calculating inflation, right? If I, for example, take the base year of 2024 in 25, then I see the total output is 100 only, right? So this is exactly what is meant by nominal and real. right? So the main debate is about output versus value. Clear, everyone? My online friends, everything is clear? This is what we are talking about, nominal and real. Also, when we talk about such news from the Hindustan Times, as you can see, right? This is a 2025 data. US, China, Germany, and India, and Japan in the top 5. These are the top 5 countries in nominal terms. Okay, nominal terms means we are not calculating inflation here. Okay, this is the total value. That is why we all see, right, in our day-to-day newspapers, right, our politicians can, proudly tell that we are the 4th largest, country when we talk about the size of our economy. Clear? So this is exactly what we have to concern with the nominal thing. Okay, now read the statement here. Statement number 1 is talking about that an increase in nominal GDP does not necessarily mean an increase in the total output of the country. Is it true? As you have seen in the case of this samosa based economy, correct? So see, the output is same, but the prices have increased, and this is giving us the illusion that okay, the prices have increased, the output is remaining same. That is why maybe the GDP in the next year has increased, but it is not, because inflation has also increased in the next year, correct? So this is exactly what we talk about, why statement number 1 is true, right? Anyone who has marked statement number 1 as wrong? No? Okay, very good. That means all of you have revised well. Achha, nominal GDP captures the final value of goods and services at current prices without adjusting for inflation. Correct? Current prices means the prices which are present in this year. Constant prices means that the prices which have been present in a year which has been quite stable for us. What is the base year right now? Guys, batao. Huh? Achha, are we hearing anything regarding the base year right now? Any new updates? Our online friends tell me, yes, 2020? Achha, base year has been changed, right? No? We are planning to change it. Okay, change it to which year? 2019? 2023? Anyone? Our online guys confidently tell me yes. 2022? 2022-23. Yes, we are right now thinking of changing the base year from 11-12 to 23-20, to 22-23, right? Why we are doing this? Yes? Sorry? Digital. Why 2022-23? It is the post-COVID world, right? Right? It is a post-COVID world we are talking about. So we are thinking of taking a base year, which is just after the COVID, so that we do not have too much of fluctuations that we have seen during the COVID economy, right? The manufacturing sector collapsed, the service sector collapsed, even the agriculture sector did not collapse too much, but they've seen volatility. So we need to choose a year which is quite stable. Even if you remember 2011-12 was that year in our economy, economic history, which was quite stable. Correct? That is why we generally choose those kind of years, right? And for example, even in my camp discussions, I always include the PYQs. And even the PYQs from CDS examinations, if you see here, correct? In 2021, they asked this question. Let me zoom for all of you. And I want the answer from all of you. Let me know what is the answer to this. So which of the following statements is not correct? Firstly, these not correct questions are very tricky sometimes. We do not see this not, and so many mistakes we do only due to this. So what do you think? Achha, what is potential GDP? Is this definition correct regarding potential GDP? Yes or no? Yes? What do you think, my online friends? Is this correct? So what is the answer? Tell me. See, nominal GDP is calculated by valuing outputs of different year at constant prices. Very, very good, very good. It is correct actually. Now, if you see, this was a question in 2021. Okay. Do you remember a 2020 mains question regarding potential GDP? Do you remember that? Right? So see, this is what, even that is why I focus on the CDS and the prelims questions also, because they sometimes have too much overlapping, concepts and also the topics. So when you are doing the PYQs, if you can find the serious questions, also please go through them. Take care, clear? And alongside, I will be attaching various PYQs. For example, see, this question is talking about the same. For example, the growth rate of per capita income at current prices is higher than that of per capita income at constant prices, because the latter takes into account which? Option number B, increase in price level, right? So this is what we are talking about, analyzing the PYQs. Even if you see May 2021, they have been asking questions on change in methodology. This is also which is going on in the news right now, right? They are thinking of changing the base here. Chalo, good. Now this question. This is regarding the incremental capital output ratio. So this is almost like your average preparation strategy. Okay, what we all do, we all are, instead of becoming district collectors, sometimes we become book collectors. है ना? We think that the more books we collect, the more materials we study, the better it is for our exam. What do you think? It is the right strategy to collect more books, more things? Yes? No, never. Right? You should choose one material. You should choose that and give your life to that. Okay? Revise it again and again. Solve as many questions as possible. Okay? Because less is always more. Okay? Less materials are always more. The same thing applies here. ICOR. ICOR means simply the total number of capital that you have in the country divided by your GDP. Clear? Capital to output. Capital means, what do you mean by capital? Tell me, someone, very quickly. Yes? Anyone? Very good, very good. Capital goods are those kind of goods which can be used to produce other goods. Generally, they are machines, they are also better technology, correct? Clear? So capital, the more number of capital that we have, it is always good for our economy, correct? The more number of capital that we have, it also shows that a country is always a richer country, right? It is not always true. Because how well you use that capital is more important than how much capital you have, right? And this is what ICOR is all about. ICOR means, the increase in investment that you are doing in 1 year divided by the increase in GDP due to that investment in 1 year. Clear? For example, if you run a factory, right? You are the factory owner. You are thinking of adding 2 more new machines, because you think that at the end of your year, you will be producing 100 more clothes or 100 more t-shirts. Clear? So ICOR is 2 new machines divided by 100 new t-shirts. Clear? Right? And if you are using more machines, you are producing more t-shirts. So this is exactly what you have to understand, that you have to use your capital. And the more number of capital that you use, right, the more number of output you will get. Correct? And the more number of capital, for example, if you're not using, for example, see, you are investing a lot. You are investing a huge amount, but your increase is very low. That means you are not properly using your machines, you are not properly using your capital. Hai na? So this is exactly why sometimes you find that the ICOR can be very high. Because if the numerator is very high and the denominator is quite low, then obviously the ICOR will be higher, right? So that is why, less is always better sometimes. Clear? Always more is not good, right? Even in your lives, you find that too much of entertainment is not good. Preparation for UPSC, clearing the exam is much more important. So this is what you have to relate here to. Clear? And I have given you, 2 QR codes here. 2 QR codes. This is one Hindu article. I guess in the last 5-6 months, this article was there in the Hindu, which talked about our capital formation and the link between it with ICOR. Correct? Now, capital formation, in actual terms or in very layman terms, it refers to investment. Correct? The more number of new investment that we do. So, for example, if we are trying to invest more, obviously, it has a direct implication of our GDP. So what is the direct implication? More investment means GDP will increase, right? So definitely, if we have a low ICOR, that means we will be having more GDP. Correct? Is it clear, everyone? Is it clear, my online friends? All good? Correct? So this is exactly what we have to keep in mind, okay, for ICOR. So after the discussion today, all of you have a homework, okay? You have to read these two articles, right? You will be getting the PPT, I guess. So you will be, please be reading this because it is very, very important. Okay? All good? Clear? Acha. News like this, for example, if you read sometimes news like this, what this tells you regarding ICOR? What do you think? What is China's ICOR in this way? For example, China, right now, you have been hearing that, it is way ahead in India's, with reference to India's infrastructure, economic development, etc. But see, 50 plus ghost cities in China. That means, these real estate developers have constructed huge buildings, huge factories, but most of them are lying vacant. So this means China's ICOR is high or low? High, right? With reference to India, we cannot calculate here because ICOR is a very, very technical term, right? And sometimes economists differ on what is the actual value. According to this article in the Hindu, we can know that in 2025-26, ICOR is 5.1. Very important point for your mains answers. Okay, everyone, please do note these things down. And that is why these camp discussions will be giving you many new facts, many new insights into even which can be helpful even for your mains exam. Clear? Now see, this is a question which is directly related to ICOR, but I want all of you to answer this question. 2013 PYQ. Tell me what is the answer here. Okay, very good. So some of you have even looked at the question and answered. That means you people have memorized the PYQs. Good, good, good. I really admire this because the more PYQs we read, firstly we can memorize it. Okay, if this question comes, for example, in 2021 and 2023 or 4, there was this question on right to privacy. 2019 also. UPSC did not even put any effort. It copy pasted that questions in 3 years. So if this question comes, some of you have memorized it. It is good for you. Okay? But the question is that economic growth in X country will definitely happen. Okay? The key word here is necessarily. This means please read the question very properly, guys. Okay? Economic growth in any country will necessarily happen if there is a capital formation. I mean investment. Okay? Good.
The previous question, there is a term high capital output ratio.
This one? Yes.
Discussing about ICO.
Yes. Yes. Correct? Chalo. Now, these questions, for example, see, question number 23. The Reserve Bank of India, the RBI maintain gold reserves for how many of the above reasons? So, this question sometimes give you that RBI can do anything, right? It has some direct and negative, indirect impacts on everything. Sometimes these questions will feel like these are too good to be true questions, right? All of the answers maybe are correct. All of these statements are maybe correct. Correct? But you have to understand that RBI and stock markets do not have too much of direct link. Right? Because stock market is the ambit of which institution? CB. Very good. Right? So this is why I can straight away ignore the stock market point. Now, RBI maintains gold. All of you know that. Even in recent times, you may have come across so many articles that the central banks in the entire world are actually, the central banks in the entire world are actually buying more gold. They are buying more gold since 2022. What do you think is the reason behind that? Yes? Tell me. Acha, did you all hear that the central banks in recent times are buying more gold? All of you are aware of it? It is always in the news. What do you think is the reason? Sorry? Reduce dependence on dollar. Very good. Right? First point is this one, that Mr. Trump is very angry right now, or he's showing that he's very angry. So he is imposing tariffs just to get his own demands. And also the global economy is facing some kind of crisis right now. Venezuela, the president is being kidnapped overnight. And Venezuela is an oil-based country. The economy operates on oil. Okay. The crisis which is going on in Middle East, that is also seeing no end. India is having its own crisis right now, the border crisis, right? In this year also itself, we had Operation Sindoor, and army chiefs are right now telling that Operation Sindoor is still on. Correct. So we are right now living in a fractured world. Fractured world means that the world is not at peace. And whenever the world is not at peace, always listen to your mom. What our mom does? Our mom buys gold, lots of it. And this is where you understand the importance of such assets during such crisis times. This is what our central banks, for example, RBI is acting like our mothers. All around the world, they are buying gold. For example, according to the World Gold Council, these facts are very important for your prelims. We have purchased around 1,082 tons, right? And, right now in the entire world, 20% of the gold is held in the central bank's foreign exchange reserve, right? After the foreign exchange reserve. Generally, what happens in RBI, we have the foreign exchange reserve, we have the gold, we have the SDF, and we have the RTP as a part of our forex reserves. And gold is supposedly the second highest component in all the central banks of the world. Clear? So this is a fact that you have to keep in mind. But right now, if you see, guys, this RBI is right now not buying too much of gold because it has already bought too much. So it is trying to rebalance it, the gold that we already have. So here, we actually take gold, for example, to counter inflation. This is a correct point because we want to keep our value of the currency stable, right? Balancing foreign exchange reserve, this is what we are doing right now. All the central banks are doing right now to keep more gold, just to actually stay away from all those crises and those economic crises which is happening right now, right? Also, hedging against fiat currencies. What is a fiat currency? Tell me.
Currency which is available in the global market.
I heard government somewhere. Huh.
Government promise. A government issued currency which is not backed by any commodity.
Okay, quite good. Our online friends, do you have anything to add on what is a fiat currency? Note is one example, coin is one example. See, fiat currencies are those currencies, you have to be aware of these terms. I know these are very easy things, but still sometimes you are confused in easy things, guys. Fiat currencies are those currencies, firstly, which can measure value in money terms. Okay? Measure value, 10 rupees, 100 rupee notes. Okay? Then it must be issued by an authority. Okay? That authority could be a king 100 years ago. That authority can be RBI right now. Okay? Now many of our online friends are telling legal tender. Legal tender is actually different from fiat currencies because legal tender means that it is a fiat currency which is valid right now in 2026 on January 2026, 2024 January, right? So for example, the coins and the notes that you use right now, they are legal tender, right? The Mughal time coins, are those legal tender? No. Are those fiat currencies? Yes. What do you think? The Mughal era coins, the British era coins, the Mauryan era coins, those are fiat currencies? Yes? Actually, yes. But these are not legal tender. That you have to keep in mind. Legal tender means that fiat currency is valid right now for circulation. Okay? So, hedging against fiat currencies, it is a correct point. Yes or not? Because we maintain dollar, we maintain pound, we maintain X amount of foreign exchange currencies, right? Foreign currencies. So we have to also keep their value stable. Correct? That is why we need more gold. So all these first three, 1, 2, 3 are correct here. Clear? Everyone? Right? Chalo. We are now moving on to the next one. Before that, we have another questions from the PYQs. Okay. For example, see in 2013, they have asked that which of the below are actually included in India's foreign exchange reserves. 2022, They have been asking various questions regarding rupee appreciation, depreciation, the relation between interest rates in the US and India also, right? So having this linkage is very important. Even if you see in 2015, in the CDS examination, they've asked regarding the gold monetization scheme. Clear? So these linkages are very important with reference to the PYQs. Chalo, moving on. How many of you watch Shark Tank India? Raise your hands. No one? My online friends, someone must watch Shark Tank India? No one? Tell me, let me know. Raise your hand, guys. Give me a thumbs up. Some of you watch? Okay. See, the thing is that in Shark Tank, what happened? There are various Indian startups, okay, Indian companies, or various other new companies, right? They need funding. You know, the biggest fund, or say the most easy fund for any startup is, tell me, their own money. You know, the business people who want to set up the startup, right? They have their own money sometimes. So that is known as bootstrap money or bootstrap fund. Okay? These terms are very important, guys. So some company which is trying to set up its startup using its own fund or fund of its own owners, that is known as a bootstrap fund. Second, it can go to, or they can go to their friends, families, banks, money lenders, correct? So banks come into picture, friends, bootstrap, right? Also, there are various ways of funding. For example, you can go to the startup Shark Tank India, right? And there are this kind of business people. For example, he is the owner of Shadi.com, hai na? Anupam Mittal, right? So these people sit together, 3-4 people, and they evaluate some new startups who come before them. So these startups ask for money, okay, to increase their funding and all of those things. So there are generally 3 kinds of funds or 2-3 kinds of funding. Firstly, these investors, big investors, these are very big investors. They can tell the startups that, okay, I am giving you 1 crore rupees for 2% of your equity. Equity means ownership in that company. 1 crore for 2%. This is where this person will becoming a 2% member of that company. Okay? But there are other forms of financing also. Second is a loan. So these people can also give loans and they will charge interest. Okay? So another form of startup money is a loan which is based on your revenue. Okay? For example, the startup will be having some monthly sales, right? And therein, this people will be asking, ki last month mein kitna hua? And if you have made a profit, then they will tell, okay, give me 10% of the profit till I take back the loans. Okay? Then, for example, the company is not making a profit in 1 month. Okay? So they will do what? They will try to not take any kind of profit from that month. Okay? This is what is mean by revenue based financing. Clear, everyone? So as according to your revenue of that company, you will be actually taking the profit from that company or not. All good? So this is why, the statement 1 is actually correct, because right now many startups are actually based on this model, revenue based financing. So if that startup is having some profit, okay, that profit can be given to the business people, otherwise not. Clear? Acha. Second statement means that in revenue based financing, only a fixed percentage of gross revenue of the startups is paid to the investors. See, guys, this kind of terms that only a fixed percentage is already an extreme statement. Okay? Because in such financing, in any kind of financing, there can be so many ways. There can be so many ways of financing the business. So just one way of fixed percentage is not correct. Clear? That is why statement 2 is not correct and statement 1 is correct. Clear? All good? Chalo, let us move on to the next one. See, another question, for example, in 2014, right, there was a question on venture capital. Also, in 2022, there were questions on convertible bonds. So we can actually link these 2 topics with reference to these startups. So right now also, startups have been in the news due to the various policies which have been launched by the government of India. So such things are very important, guys. Okay, keep these things in mind for your exam. Chalo, moving on to the next. Regarding the foreign portfolio investment. Okay. How many of you made correct here? Tell me. Correct? Online friends, how many of you made this question correct? Acha. Many of you may have went wrong in this point, right? Sovereign gold bonds, correct? See, the thing is that the foreign portfolio investors, correct, cannot invest in everything. This is another question where you will be facing this trap that everything will be looking too good to be true, correct? So this means that foreign investors cannot invest in everything. Okay, there is one facility known as fully accessible route. All of you have heard about it. FAR, fully accessible route, will be telling what kind of investments foreign investors can do. For example, in India right now, foreign investors can invest in standard government securities of 5 years, 7, 10, 14 and 13-year tenure. Okay? They can also invest in sovereign green bonds, not gold bonds. Okay? They can invest in green bonds but not in gold bonds. What do you think is the reason behind it? There is one term behind it, a technical economic term. Tell me. It is associated, I'm giving you a hint, with the Tarapore committee. Now tell me. Stability of currency, okay. Anything else? Any other term that is associated with the Tarapore committee recommendations? Yes? Have you heard of the term capital convertibility? है ना? Capital convertibility. So this means that in India, we have a fully convertible, no? We have a partial capital convertibility, right? So we cannot try to convert everything with reference to the capital account. For example, we cannot take unlimited amount of loans from abroad. We cannot do unlimited investments abroad. Why? Because if anything goes wrong, say in Venezuela, say in Middle East, say in US, for example, that shock will impact India also. And you know, guys, that banks, loans, these are very dangerous things. Interest rates are involved. Profits of companies are involved. So if there is a problem in the US, it will come into the in the Indian economy also, right? So this is why we did not yet fully convert this capital account into freely convertible ways, right? So this is what we generally follow, a partial capital account convertibility in India. And that is why FPIs are not allowed to invest in everything. Okay? FPIs are not allowed to invest in gold bonds because it is generally for our own people. Okay? It is generally to reduce the import bill of gold in India. Okay? It is not associated to bring in more FPI investments. But yeah, they can invest in our Indian markets, stocks. They can invest in mutual funds also. Okay? They can invest in Indian depository receipts also. What are these? These are, for example, if there is a US-based company, for example, say McDonald's, who is actually listed in the US stock markets. All of you know that. Now, what McDonald's can do to attract more Indian investors, okay? They can actually give some of the shares of McDonald's to a custodian bank in the US itself. Okay? This bank is a custodian because it is kind of keeping the shares of McDonald's with itself. Now that custodian bank will come into India and list these shares in our stock market. So this is what is known as Indian depository receipts. Okay? So FPIs can also invest in this way in India. Correct? Next, they can also invest in exchange traded funds. Now, can anyone tell me what is the difference between ETF and mutual funds? Yes? You're correct, tell me. Okay. Okay. Anyone else? Okay. So let me tell you. See, all of us are pulling our money into one very big fund, which is managed by a company, say ABC company. Okay? And this company is investing our own money in the stock market. Okay? this is what this company is managing all our funds into what kind of stocks, everything this company is managing. This is known as a mutual fund, very simply. Okay? Now, for example, exchange traded fund is not like that. Exchange traded fund is almost like a mutual fund, but it is like a stock. Okay? Now, what this stock is doing, this stock is listed in the stock market, for example. Okay? But this stock itself is having various other stocks of, say, Reliance, of Adani, of various other companies in India, right? So this stock is kind of, you can tell, like, mother stock. It is having in itself various other small stocks. Okay? So what mutual funds does, mutual fund has a company, particular company. That company will be going to the stock market to invest in various other companies itself. Okay? So this is in itself managed by a company. Every kind of activity is managed by that company itself and the fund manager. Okay? And the ETF is where this stock is once listed, it is there on the stock market, it is trading like a normal stock. Clear, everyone? And FPIs can also do investment here. Okay? Chalo. Yes. So, what happens, this is the fully accessible route. Okay? Fully accessible route was kind of significantly changed during the COVID. Okay? COVID and after COVID. And RBI from time to time, includes and excludes various things here. So as of now, these are the things. Okay? In the future, this can change again. Okay? Clear? Good. Moving on to the next one. Firstly, this is a question on imported inflation. In 2018 CDS, a question came on imported inflation. I want your answers to this. Tell me, guys. Our online friends, tell me what is the answer to this. What do you think? A. Why not B? UPSC sometimes frames very absurd questions. You cannot see properly. Okay. See, for example, inflation caused by printing of new currency notes. Inflation caused by crop failure in neighboring countries. Rise in prices of domestic goods due to high demand from foreigners. These are not very specific definitions. Okay? What is more specific is rise in general price level due to an increase in prices of imported commodities. Sometimes if you see a formal definition among 4 options, generally that should be correct. Okay? Instead of a very specific, very vague kind of a definition. So firstly, imported inflation is inflation in India, for example, due to some inflation or some other price level rise in other countries. Okay? For example, you must have heard this news that in Yemen, these Houthi rebels are attacking various ships in the Red Sea. And you know that the Red Sea region is very important for our crude oil, right? So majority, not only for us, for the world, majority of the world's crude oil passes through that region. And if there is this kind of crisis which is going on, correct, what will happen to the price of the crude oil? It will increase. What will happen to the price of petrol in India? It will increase. So this is one form of imported inflation. Due to conflicts abroad, we have to suffer in India. So this is what happens here. So, for example, if you look at statement number 2, decrease in crude oil prices, this is not correct. Correct? Clear? How many of the above contribute to imported inflation? Instead, it should be increase in crude oil prices. Clear? Achha, what will happen to the appreciation of domestic currency? Whenever our rupee appreciates, what happens to the exporters? What happens to the importers? Tell me. So whenever our rupee appreciates, our exporters will lose, right? They will lose their profits because rupee's value has increased with reference to dollar, with reference to pound, right? So that is why the exporters will suffer a loss. Importers will find that, okay, right now this crude oil is very cheap. Right now the gold is very cheap because my value of rupee has increased. It is right now better. I can buy more international items or foreign items. Clear? So the importers will gain. Correct? So here, what will happen to imported inflation? Generally in cases of depreciation, right, we see more levels of inflation in the country, because depreciation, rupee depreciation will be leading to more costs for business in the country. For example, say if rupee has depreciated, it has made our crude oil prices higher, right, and prices of petrol higher, prices of transportation higher in India, correct? So rupee depreciation leads to more amount of imported inflation, not appreciation. It will lead to, not always, definitely. Okay, so this is wrong, this is wrong, so only 3 is correct. Why? Because in some questions, in such questions, always imagine that such exporting nations, for example, rise in interest rate of the exporting nations, imagine that it is the US. Okay, so imagine it is the US. So what happened? US interest rates is more than Indian interest rates, correct? So what the investors will do? They will invest where? If the interest rate is higher in the US, everyone will invest in the US markets. So all the investments even from India will be flowing there, correct? And if all the investments from India, all the money from India is going to the US, investors will do what? Investors will dump rupee in India and they will demand more dollars. So dollar demand will go up. So dollar will be appreciating, and whenever dollar appreciates with reference to rupee, rupee depreciates. So if rupee depreciates here, what will happen? Imported inflation. We have just seen in the first point, depreciation causes imported inflation, and this is exactly how you have to think in your examination. In this way, in this logical way, you have to always think and solve the questions. Clear, everyone? Yes.
Decrease in global crude oil price.
Yes.
Price decrease हो रहा है तो हम उससे ज़्यादा buy करना चाहते हैं तो demand उसकी बढ़ेगी. Increase in demand.
Which will contribute to imported inflation. If the prices of global crude oil is decreasing, then we have to pay less for import. Our import bill will go down. Then imported inflation will go down itself. Clear? Okay.
That rise in interest rate is related to what?
This is rise of interest rates of the exporting nations. Exporting nations can be anything, Saudi Arabia, US, any other countries. Yeah, so whenever you're talking about interest rates, right, you have to always imagine that it is the interest rate of the bonds in that country. Always. Because you have to think from the perspective of investment. Okay, you are an investor, and the safest form of investment is the government bonds. So you have to look at the interest rate of the government bonds. Unless it is specified in the question that it is the borrowing interest rate or depositor interest rate. Okay? This is what you have to keep in mind. Yes? Currency depreciation, I told, will make the imports much more expensive. That is why imported inflation. All good? Okay, chalo. Let us move on to the next one. Now, this is a question where we have to just go through a short story. Okay? For example, you have 500 rupees. Now you have two choices. Okay? Spending it on D. Manoj pizza, some Indian version of Domino's, or sorry, you can put your money in the bank account. Okay? That bank can do what? Can give loans to Foxconn or Apple. Okay? And Apple can produce more iPhones in the country. Right? So you have two options: to spend on pizza or to deposit your money in bank who will be giving loans to Apple, Foxconn, and all those companies which are manufacturing in India. So right now, relate the statements here. That a decline in consumption expenditure can result in higher private investment. Is it correct? For example, if you do not spend on pizza, if you deposit in your bank and the bank is giving more loans, so will it increase investments in the country? Because the banks always give loans to businesses. Definitely. So it is correct. And note, guys, here, the key word is can. Right? If the keyword is will or always, then it would be wrong. Correct? Now, statement number 2, a reduction in consumption expenditure leads to increase in savings. Is it correct? For example, if I do not have this pizza here, a reduction in consumption expenditure, I do not consume the pizza, what I do? I keep it in my bank account. So it is increasing my savings. It's true, right? Now look at third. A rise in individual savings, if I am saving more, I am not having the pizza, it is always leading to a higher savings and investment. It is not correct. Now, do you have any term for this? Paradox of thrift, right? And this is what also economists are also divided. You know, in economics, there are two groups. One is the classical group, one is the Keynesian groups. Classical groups always believe that always you should save more because you will have always more investment if you save more, right? They believe in always wala thing, that always savings means more investment. But Keynesians do not agree with that. Keynesians believe that if I am right now saving more, I am not having this pizza. So what will happen to D Manoj Pizza? D Manoj Pizza will shut down. It will not operate. Along with that, Abibas, Bikey, all those fake brands also will collapse. Employment will be gone. If I'm saving more as citizens, so my individual choice is reflected by you also, by everyone here, by my online friends also. If all of us save, who will produce and who will consume all the goods? If there is no consumption, no one will produce. If no one is producing, no one will be giving employment. Our GDP will go down. So this means that you should not save more. Okay? You should spend more in the market. And that is what also the government also wants you. Governments decreases the taxes almost, right? Sometimes it reduces the tax slabs, right? It tries to give you more money, more exemptions is trying to give. What is trying to do? Government is actually trying you to spend more, right? Clear, guys? So this is why this statement is not correct. Okay? Clear? So that is why this statement is actually explaining the statement number 1. Clear? Any doubts here? All good? All good? Okay. Moving on. Question 28. Now here, taking the Apple example again. Acha, by the way, do you all know about the increase in manufacturing of India's phone architecture or smartphone architecture? Due to PLI scheme, we have actually tried to increase our electronics component, which has actually brought that into the top 5 exporting items of India. For example, if you talk about iPhones right now, iPhones are actually manufactured in India by a huge amount, right? Because the world is right now following a China plus one strategy. China plus one strategy means that all of the countries are diversing away from China and settling into Vietnam, India, and various other countries. Okay? So this means that, for example, say, if I am trading Indian iPhones, for example, I am exporting iPhones which are made in India to the US. So that is why these goods are known as tradable goods, that I can easily trade them, I can package them, I can send them abroad. So these are known as tradable goods. But for example, you take a haircut, right? In India, a haircut is say 50 rupees, 100 rupees, but in the US it costs 5,000 rupees, 10,000 rupees sometimes. So why do you think is a difference? For example, iPhone in India cost around 80,000. In the US also it is approximately 80,000, right? In Indian money, if you can see. But why these huge differences between these items which are not traded? You cannot trade a haircut, right? You cannot say, for example, imagine an Indian barber cutting an American hair, right? Clear? So this is what we have to keep in mind. There are some local goods which are not traded, right? And developing countries, they have, various situations. They have low price raw materials, right? Their economies are not quite developed, correct? So due to various other factors, we see price differences between developed and developing countries. Clear? And that is why the cost of living in developing countries are actually quite lower, right? Quite cheaper, because some goods cannot be traded like this. Clear? Generally, the goods which are easily traded, their prices are almost same. Clear? And that is also what we have to keep in mind, brings our PPP comparisons also. If you look at India's PPP ranking, it is at 3rd level. Correct? So this actually brings you to this level itself. That PPP tells you how much money you can spend in both of the countries, but have the both of the goods. Right? This is what the concept of PPP is. So here, question number 20 is telling that non-traded goods and services tend to be cheaper in low-income countries than high-income countries. It is true? Clear? We have seen just now. The currency of a low-income country is usually weaker or undervalued. For example, take US, take India. As of now, as of just now, you know that $1 is equal to 92 rupees. 92 rupees. So don't you think that in 1-2 years we actually went from 70 rupees to 92 rupees around? So this means that our rupee is quite undervalued right now. It is depreciating. Even if you take various other countries from Latin America, African countries, so they have actually quite undervaluation with reference to developed countries such as the Western European countries, the US, the Canada, right? Clear, everyone? But do these statements have any link between themselves? Sorry? Do you think? They do not have any link. Because it is not necessarily that always a country which has a lower valued currency will be much more cheaper in goods and services. It cannot be also. Right? There is not a direct link between these two. Is it clear, everyone? So this is what it is. So the answer is actually B, that both statements are actually correct, but none of them are explaining each other. Okay? Clear? Now, moving on to question number 29. Now this is actually a new event which has happened. For example, around 2 weeks ago, the government of India actually made it mandatory for the beneficiaries of the PM Kisan to have a mandatory farmer ID. Okay, so this is why right now, for example, the situation which is given here, that if, for example, Suresh want to apply for a cash subsidy under PM Kisan, what is the total amount of PM Kisan? 6,000 rupees per year, right? So if he wants to avail the benefits of this scheme, right now he has to have a mandatory Kisan Pehchan Patra. Okay, clear? And this means that this farm ID actually is serving as a proof of your ownership of the agricultural land. So this is a very static news, a current affairs related news. Okay? And it is very important, guys, to actually know what is the main background of this. Because in the last budget, we announced the digital agricultural mission. And within this, we have something which we know as an agri stack. Agri stack looks into your location of your farm, your bank account, your Aadhaar card, your crop data, every single thing. It is trying to have a totally online presence of the digital of the farmer data. Yes, right? So this is what we are trying to do on a digital basis. First 20, last one. Yes. Okay. Now, finally, we want to do the last one, which is talking about which of the following, which of the 5 here will be leading to a depreciation of the Indian currency. Okay? Now, guys, whenever we are talking about appreciation or depreciation of currency, your life will be much more easier if you understand these terms with reference to demand and supply. Clear? I have attached this here, but individually let us go through this. For example, say, what do I want? I want depreciation of the Indian currency. Okay? The main statement is this, depreciation of Indian currency. Right now, lower long-term inflation rates in the developed countries. Will it lead to depreciation? What do you think? Imagine in this way. In developed countries, imagine that it is the US. So what is the case? In the US, inflation is lower. Long-term inflation is lower. Say over 5 years, 6 years, inflation is lower in the US. Okay? Than India. So definitely, if you invest your money in India, if you keep your money in India, it will lose money, it will lose value much more faster than US. So what you will do? You will not keep your money in India itself. You will, pick your money from India and invest in the US, because you are getting stable money value in the US. So what will happen to the demand for dollar? What will happen to the demand for dollar here? It will increase, right? Demand for dollar will increase. And whenever demand for dollar increases, rupee will depreciate. Okay, so it is correct. Protectionism in the major export markets of Indian commodities. Again, imagine Mr. Trump. Okay, Mr. Donald Trump is again, say, for example, levying some tariffs on India. So what will happen? What will happen if we have more tariffs? What will happen to our rupee appreciation or depreciation? See, if we have more tariffs in the US, okay, so people will not buy Indian commodities in the US, है ना? Because Indian goods are much more expensive. So people will not demand Indian rupee. Rupee demand will fall down. So what will happen here? Rupee will depreciate, है ना? Because rupee's demand has fallen down. Now, rise in oil prices by the OPEC countries. If our OPEC prices, for example, if our oil prices are increasing, our petroleum prices are increasing, so India has to spend more dollar to buy those increased oil prices, है ना? So again, what will happen? Demand for dollar will go up, है ना? And again, rupee will depreciate. So this is also correct. Achha, what is accommodative stance? It means that the interest rates of the RBI can go down in the future. There are hawkish stances, accommodative stances, neutral stances. Accommodative means that maybe RBI will decrease the interest rates in the future. So if RBI decreases the interest rates, the government bond interest rate in India can go down. If the government bond interest rate goes down, investors will come to India or they will leave for US. They will leave for US. They will demand more dollar. So this will lead to rupee depreciation again, है ना? And increase in non-tariff barrier by India. For example, imagine Atmanirbhar Bharat. India wants to promote more Indian manufactured goods and services. So India has levied what? Some tariffs on US, some or say some European countries. So that will lead to, less demand for dollars. है ना? Indians are not spending abroad. Indians are telling that, okay, I will produce itself in India itself. So India will not demand too much of dollars. So dollar will depreciate here and rupee will appreciate, not depreciate. Clear? Everyone? So that is why this is wrong and all of these are actually correct. Okay? So this was all for economics, right? So these 10 questions actually tell you how much conceptual clarity you need to keep in mind. है ना? So all of these questions you have seen were very conceptual, highly conceptual. है ना? So chalo, let's all meet you in camp, right? So right now Shekhar sir will come and he will be taking up geography and environment. Clear? Till then, all the best guys. Take some rest and we will start a discussion again. Okay? All the best guys. Chalo. अब ठीक है.
Hello everyone, am I audible? Online students, please confirm. Am I audible to you? Okay. So here we will be taking up the geography question, geography section. How was the paper? How was the paper? कैसा भी हो moderate बोल देना है. Isn't it? Really it was moderate. Yes, I will. Okay. So let us quickly start the discussion because due to some confusion, there is a class after this. So I'll try to finish as many questions as I can. Rest of the session you will get it in online mode. But just to give you a brief about how this session will progress in this particular batch of camp, so that you can have an essence about the geography discussion. Already polity and economy have been done. Okay, so let us start without any delay. The introduction part, the main things I wanted to tell you about the high yielding areas. So let's quickly cover that. So basically, if you will look at last 15-year paper, you can divide the paper into two parts, basically conceptual and factual, plus the dynamic part. So conceptual part, it mainly covers the topics like physical geography, oceanography, geomorphology, climatology, biogeography, etc. Then comes the application part. So sometime based on the concept, they ask you some kind of analytical question. Scope is not much in geography, but there are some questions. Then there are map-based questions, which are purely memory-based. Then comes the integrated questions, which you can cover in economy, like question based on grain, food products, agricultural productivity, population dynamics. So it is up to you whether you want to cover them under economy or geography. Okay, so these are the major themes. If you will check the paper, you will find around 70% questions are coming from these themes along with the minerals also. So without wasting further time, let us take up the first question. Did you solve it? How was this question? What is your rating about this? Yeah, thermal anticyclone. See, what is the basic concept behind this is the monsoon, because this is a recurring theme. If you will see in previous year paper, monsoon is one of the most favorite theme of UPSC in mains as well as in prelims. And in monsoon, Tibetan Plateau has a huge role. So based on that, so just for your reference, there are MCQs which you can see, PYQs 2014, 2017, monsoon, and again Indian Ocean dipole, the factor affecting monsoon. Okay, now for your understanding, let us quickly cover the aspects related to monsoon, because there are several theories. Indian Ocean dipole is there, El Nino La Nina is there, Tibetan Plateau is there, subtropical jet stream is there. Okay, so you all are aware about the position of subtropical jet stream? Pata hai? Do you know? Nahi. Okay, so what is subtropical jet stream? It is upper tropospheric high speed narrow band winds moving at an speed of around 300 to 400 km per hour. So you might have seen the globe, and there you will find these meandering winds moving from west to east. This is. So strongest is polar, then subtropical, and others are local jet streams. Now, can you tell me one thing? What is the factor that decides the strength of the jet stream?
Two different temperatures.
Correct. The temperature contrast. Okay. The temperature contrast. So temperature contrast between two zones. If one zone is, let's say, warmer, other is cold, then the strength of the jet stream will be much more than a moderate temperature contrast. So Tibetan Plateau के साथ क्या होता है? What happens during summer in May, June? High temperature. So what happens? Let's say this is Tibetan Plateau, high temperature. So convection starts, and this air going the upper tropospheric level, it diverges. That is what. Now, if you will apply Coriolis force, where it would turn? Right. What is this direction? Clockwise. And in northern hemisphere, what we call anticyclone. And that is why the upper tropospheric anticyclone during summer season. Now the second statement says it weakens. So this subtropical jet stream during summer, the position is around Shivaliks, that is below Himalayas, Himalayan foothills. So it covers areas just downslope of the Himalayas up till May. But suddenly within 2-3 weeks, in June, what happens? This ITCZ starts moving with apparent movement of sun. This ITCZ comes in, and this jet stream, it flips upward, goes northward to the Tibetan Plateau. Okay, but a statement says that Tibetan Plateau, it weakens. How it weakens? Just imagine the month of May and June. What is the temperature in mainland India? High. What is the temperature in Tibetan Plateau? Very high. Temperature contrast is high or low? Low. Because here the land mass is also warm. This is also warm. Temperature contrast is low. Now the jet stream, the strength will reduce. Yes or no? So not only it will move up due to ITCZ and apparent movement of sun, but it will also weaken. It is also weakened. Is it clear to all? Is it clear? Third statement, the Tej tropical easterly jet stream, what it is. Now this diverging air is moving towards right. Okay, so just from here it moves in this direction, and please understand this is upper tropospheric, not that high, but at an intermediate level. So this diverging air comes to the high pressure zone of Mascarene High, you know, the Indian Ocean. It subsides here, adds to the high pressure of Mascarene High, and strengthens the Indian monsoonal wind, that is southwestern monsoon. So rising here, coming to the southern Indian Ocean, subsiding and combining with the southwest monsoon. Okay, now it is clear that it doesn't restrict, rather it is the factor behind development of easterly jet stream. Otherwise it would not develop. Clear? Other two, that Tibetan Plateau, yes, thermal anticyclone, tropospheric anticyclone. Second, weakens subtropical jet stream. This is also correct. Fine? Okay? Clear? Okay. Next, the earth gravity. Why? Because if you will check the previous year question, you will find multiple question based on earth rotation, earth magnetic field, its relation with moon and sun. So here are some questions from 2025. See here, solar flares, and here in 2013, the various forces. Now you will understand why it is always said that it should be contrasting temperature, because only then, I'm drawing it here, this trough and crest, basically what is happening, air masses are intruding into one another. Along with the Coriolis force, the air mass intrusion is also important. Clear? Nikhil. So, see, why it is always suggested that please read about the options also. So whenever you look at PYQ, it should not be limited to अच्छा इसका आंसर B है, आगे बढ़ते हैं. No. Look for A, B, C, D and read about them. Because scope is very limited. They are going to frame the question from the same standard textbook. So they are bound to use the options and statements by rephrasing them, rearranging them. Okay. So let us take this question. The acceleration due to gravity increases as one. Now this question, was it manageable? सबसे हो गया? ठीक है? किसी को problem? No issue? Places at higher elevations, I will take all three. Acceleration due to gravity increases as one moves. We know the formula. Even if we don't know the formula, we know the basic concept of difference in radius. Simple sa concept hai. If somebody is put here, it has magnetic pull, you will keep things away. The gravitational pull will decrease. Pass rakhoge to hoga. And now Earth is oblate, that is flatten at the pole and bulge at the equator. So if you will see the 3D diagram, if you will see this diagram, if you will see, consider it as a center, these bulges are way too away. Okay, so the difference is 21 kilometer. Definitely it will be low. Now you have solved this. So second statement, you know the centrifugal force acting opposite. So here the gravity is pulling here while centrifugal force is pulling there. So further countering the gravitational force, reducing the effect. Fine. Third statement, as you asked, places at higher elevation experience slightly weaker. Is there any confusion in this statement? So you will go up, you will feel because the distance is increasing. Okay, but you have to read this statement in context of statement 1. Okay, that acceleration due to gravity increases. Elevation का कोई रोल नहीं है acceleration due to gravity में. What is acceleration due to gravity? If this is the formula, it is product of mass and radius. Latitude का होता है, because see, you will say I am going upstairs, my elevation has increased, my R has increased. This is your doubt, correct? But this question, this statement is about going from equator to pole. It is not asking you a localized phenomena. It is asking you a latitudinal phenomena. Okay, and in that regard, it is not explaining that. Is it clear? Both statement 2 and 3 are correct. Because it is correct, you will go up, you will feel less gravity, but it is not explaining one. Explaining one. It is correct in itself, but this is not the cause for this. ठीक है? Moving to the third question, lunar day. आता था ये वाला? I'm going bit fast because I have been asked to. Don't worry, because there was some confusion. Do you know about lunar day? ये वाला हुआ? गलत हो गया. वो नहीं था. Concept ये, this is the concept that you need to understand. A simple understanding. Why again? Gravitational, centrifugal, the PYQs. Okay. What is lunar day? Now understand this with one simple example. I will give you a definition. Okay. Time taken to realign one place on the earth to a reference point on the moon. बहुत अच्छी definition, नहीं समझ में आई होगी. Okay, what is happening? Let's say this is earth. Let's say you are, this is earth and this is moon. Okay, now you are standing here and you are looking at this point. Okay, now after rotation of earth and after rotation of moon, because moon is also rotating, earth is also rotating, what would be the time taken to again realign that you are again in front of this particular point? This is the time, this is lunar day. ठीक, ये समझ में आ गया? अभी मैं बाकी समझाऊंगा. This basic definition depends on the option. If reading statement 1 or statement 2 solves the question by elimination, you don't need to see. This is clear that I am looking at some point and I am also rotating, that body is also rotating. In what time? Again we will be looking at each other. This is the lunar day time. अब होता क्या है? Few things. How much time earth takes to rotate? Rotate, not revolve. Rotate. 24 hour. Okay. Earth 24 hour में वापस यहाँ आ गई. How much time moon takes to rotate? The rotation 27.3, the tidal locking. Okay, leave that. 24 hours में you came back to the same point. But Earth's, moon's rotation is also going on, because you are rotating, Earth, moon is rotating, and moon is also revolving around Earth. So by the time you reached here, what happened? Moon reached here, 13 degree. This place is moved here. समझ में आया? So you are there, moon is rotating, moon is revolving. By the time you came back, moon moved this side. So to realign yourself, you have to move some extra. That time is 50 minutes. That time is 50 minutes, because moon 360 degree by 27.3. Okay, so it has moved 13 degree. But if you will cover Earth 365 days by 360 degree, how much it is? Roughly 1 degree. So by the time Earth covers 1 degree, moon covers 13 degree. Because moon is revolving in 27 days. Earth is revolving in 3 seconds. Don't get confused, simple understand. By the time you will cover one rotation in 24 hours, moon has moved 13 degree ahead. To cover this distance, Earth takes 50 minutes more. So basically क्या हो रहा है? You were standing here. When you reached here, this moon moved here. So to realign, you have to travel 50 minutes extra. If moon would have revolving in a different direction, you would have met him here, isn't it? तो पहले मिल जाते 24 घंटे से. But अब क्या हो रहा है? Now what is happening? You are meeting him after 24 hours. 24 hours, 50 minutes. Is it clear? This is what the lunar day is. So lunar day is 50 minutes longer than solar day. That is 24 hours. This is factually correct. And why it is 50 minutes more? Because moon's orbit is in same direction as the earth. Because moon is also revolving in the same direction. अगर moon इधर घूम रहा होता, you would have met him before. Okay? अगर वो उल्टा आ रहा होता, तो तुम उससे यहां कहीं मिल लेते. ठीक है? So it would have been 24 minus something. So yes, it is correct, and this is correct explanation of 1. That is why answer is A. Now, as I have told you, the rest of the session you will get it in online mode. Sorry for inconvenience. Because of some confusion, there is a class scheduled, which is going to start at 2:30. So we'll take rest of the session in online mode. So you'll get access on YouTube. Thank you. If you have any doubt, you can ask.